Hello, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Next Level You podcast, episode 103 today. So, back in 2025, I don't know the exact timeline, but I read this book. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm showing the book right now. 10x is easier than 2x. And this book, you guys, was literally what I needed to not just catapult my business, but to challenge my thinking and elevate my mindset even more than it already was. And as a mindset coach, you might be thinking like, how much more can you elevate your mindset? But I'm only human, just like the rest of you. There are times where I need that mental reset just as much as the next person. So this book really lit me up inside. It was also mentioned a lot at my very first Powerhouse Women conference that I attended. And I remember leaving there like feeling so behind, like, okay, I really need to read this book. It feels like everyone and their grandma has read this book by now. And I feel like I'm behind. And that's coming from even the lack mindset of like, don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10. Like everybody that was saying they've read that have been in business for more than 3 years, and I was just in year 1 back then. And so anyways, I read it. Highly recommend you read it if you are in the beginning stages of running your business. Highly recommend you get this book. It is worth the investment. So, what I'm coming on today to talk to you guys about is I had so many amazing takeaways from reading this book, so many key insights that I just felt, you know what, Stephanie, you need to do a podcast episode on this because I feel like it's not talked about enough. I feel like this is a topic that more female entrepreneurs specifically need to hear. I started implementing what I learned from this book almost immediately, and I wanted to explain that to you guys today in case this can help you in scaling or growing your own business or just starting your own business. Okay. The big takeaway and what I'm really going to hone in on today is the power of delegation. Learning to delegate early on in my business has helped me tremendously. And I had a lot of limiting beliefs around that in the beginning. I had a lot of limiting beliefs around like, I can't delegate until I'm making 6 figures. I should be able to do it all. I don't need help. They're not going to do it as well as I can. All of those are limiting beliefs, and they were really holding me back in business in a really bad way. Learning to let go of certain tasks that weren't making me money or that weren't lighting me up inside is literally the key to exponential growth and then ultimately freedom. That's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. So let's dive in. I am so excited. This topic just lights me up inside. Okay, so what if I told you that trying to do everything in your business is actually what's keeping you stuck? That was what I had to challenge myself with. And you guys, the fastest way to grow is not working harder, despite what you might think. It's not putting in more hours. It's not hustling till you're burnt out. It's the fastest way to grow is actually by letting go of what is not meant for you, those tasks that are not meant for you specifically. So today's episode, again, is about working smarter, not harder. It's about letting go of, in the book, they reference the 80% that's keeping you busy so that you can focus on the 20% that's actually moving the needle forward for you in your business. And that's what I'm going to dive into today also. And then I also want to share with you just some of the lessons that I learned, some of them a little painful, and share how I ultimately started delegating and what that looked like for me. So, just to give you some background in case you're not familiar with this book, the authors, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, talk about, they really like argue the point of you can try to grow your business like 2x growth, which is like incrementally improving your business. Or you can try to grow your business through 10x growth by aiming for exponential transformation. So think about it, incremental improvements or exponential transformation. Which one are you going to go for? Obviously, you're going to go for the 10x growth, the exponential transformation. And what they actually argue is that 10x growth is actually harder for you. It's harder on you. And 2x growth, if you are stuck thinking like that's where you need to put your focus in, that's actually keeping you stuck. Because when you aim for X growth, what you're trying to do is you're trying to do more of what you're already doing, which means ultimately more hustle, putting in more hours, which could then lead to more burnout. That's not the way to grow and scale your business. You're going to stay doing the same strategies, the same tasks, the same energy. You just try to do them better and faster, but that's not doing you any favors. It's not doing your business any favors really either, because you're going to hit a ceiling. What the book talks about is you can't 2x your way to freedom because you're still doing everything yourself. So you're actually not getting that freedom that you're craving. That was what really challenged me. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, it was like such a light bulb moment for me that I needed to hear that so freaking badly. So the 10x growth or the 10x mindset, that's what actually sets you free. Okay. When you aim for that 10x growth, you aren't doing more of the same tasks. You have to literally rethink how you operate, recalibrate your mindset. You have to let go of the 80% of tasks that are keeping you busy, so to speak, but not actually moving the needle forward. So think in terms of like admin duties that, yeah, they're keeping you busy, but are they really moving the needle forward? Maybe billing, maybe if you're a service-based business, notes, emails, which falls under admin duties. Trying to think what else. Oh, if you're a podcaster, like podcast editing, podcast planning, podcast publishing. So there's all of these tasks that I thought I had to be the one doing them, but ultimately it was all just busy work. It wasn't making me money, not actively anyways. And it really wasn't moving the needle forward. So the 10x way of thinking, you literally have to focus on what your unique ability is. That's what the book talks all about, is really honing in on what is your unique ability? What is the one thing that only you can do? And everything else that doesn't fall into that, delegate it or eliminate it if it's not necessary. This was a hard pill for me to swallow. I'm not going to lie. This was a little bit of a pain point for me. And that's what 10x thinking does for you, okay? It literally forces you to show up as a different person. It forces you to build a different business, a better business, and it forces you to step into a completely new level of mindset, of thinking, of you. And I'm telling you, I was here for that, and you should be too. So ultimately, the mindset shift that had to happen was what got you here is not what is going to get you to that next level. And that's a good thing, actually, because who you are becoming is so much more aligned, so much more powerful, and she has that freedom that you're craving. So if this sounds like what you're wanting and you haven't read the book, purchase the book. I'll put a link to it in my show notes, but keep listening because it's going to get better. I will be completely honest with you, like I always am. I grew so much from reading this book. That was a big part of, I feel like, a lot of my growth in the last year, I can say, is in large part because of reading this book. The book talks about the 80-20 rule. So I want to dive into that. The 80-20 principle or rule is 80% of your results comes from 20% of your efforts. You might have heard this before. This might be a review for you. That's fine. But most people spend 80% of their time on tasks that really only generate 20% of their results. That's the 80-20 rule or principle. That 80% of your results comes from 20% of your efforts. Did I say that right? Yeah. So the thing with this though is you can easily get trapped. So you're staying busy, you're working hard, but again, you're not actually seeing the needle move forward because you're literally doing everything. That's where I was at early in 2025. I was literally doing everything. And don't get me wrong, I was loving every minute of it, but I wasn't seeing that growth that I was craving. And when it comes down to those tasks that you're focusing on that aren't making you money, which for me was like admin duties, emails, phone calls, podcast editing, podcast publishing, my email newsletter, it wasn't directly bringing in money. Maybe indirectly it was. But the truth about those tasks that don't make you money, even like designing your content, your graphics for content creation, or even like managing your website, scheduling people, bookkeeping, tech stuff, all of that, while it all feels necessary, it's actually draining you and you're not realizing it. It's taking energy away from you, which ultimately means it's taking energy away from that high value work that you feel called to do. That's what really was the catalyst for me. I love practicing therapy. I love being a coach. Both hats bring me true joy and fulfillment, but I wasn't giving the best of myself because these other tasks were draining me so much. And what the book asks you to do is ask yourself, what would you have to let go of to text? For most people, the answer to that is most of what you're currently doing. And that's where I fell as well. I had to let go of admin duties. I had to let go of podcast publishing and editing. Even though I was enjoying it for the most part, I don't enjoy checking emails, but I was enjoying editing the podcast, but it wasn't leading to that 10x growth. So ultimately what I had to do and what I'm encouraging you to do is you have to give yourself permission, okay? You don't have to do it all. We think we do, but you don't have to. And honestly, if you're honest with yourself, you can't. You can't do it all and also grow exponentially. That's the cold hard truth. Something has to go. And whatever that something is, you are going to be giving so much, you're going to be providing a much better service in the long run when you let those things go. So here's what I learned through delegation. When I finally finished reading this book, I sat down with my journal and just really thought about like what tasks drain me, and I word dumped. What tasks do I love doing, but they're not making me money, and I word dumped. And what I realized was, okay, it's time to delegate both of these things. I had to delegate my admin duties. I had to hire a VA. And I had to delegate the editing and publishing of my podcast. I had to hire a podcast manager. I dreaded doing the admin duties, truth be told. So I was more than happy to take that off my plate and pay somebody to do that for me. And what that gave me in return was peace of mind, more mental freedom. I was more present in the therapy room and in my coaching calls. And she's been worth every penny. I mean, she's just been a godsend for me, and she feels totally soul aligned. And when I decided at the end of 2025 to delegate, going into 2026, I decided I was going to delegate the podcast editing to a podcast manager. It was a little bit of a, can I do this? Like, I was like, I hope this is the right decision. And I instantly got that validation that it was it. First of all, her name's Sonia. I love her. We did a discovery call before I hired her, and I walked out of that call feeling lit up inside. I loved her energy. I loved her vibes. I loved the business that she was running. Super spiritual woo-woo girl like me. We just totally hit it off. And I knew instantly, like, that's the kind of person I want joining my team. So she's now a part of my team. And again, instantly got that validation that that was the right move. Instantly. Besides those two, I will say very early on in my business, I knew bookkeeping was not my strong suit. I knew that was an area that makes me anxious and uncomfortable and overwhelmed. So I delegated bookkeeping in month one of the business. I hired an accountant to take care of my books, my payroll, my taxes, all the things. And That to me is like a non-negotiable. I think it's very naive to think that you're going to be able to keep up with that, especially as a service-based business owner. I just think it's very naive to think, oh, yeah, I'll be able to manage that. Even if you are a numbers girly, it's going to go to the back burner. I mean, it went to the back burner rather quickly for me. So that was the best decision I ever made, was also for the business, was hiring an accountant and bookkeeper. Because truth be told, you guys, and this doesn't really apply to the books side of things, but with those admin duties and even the podcast duties that I was previously doing up until last year, even though I enjoyed doing the podcast editing and managing, it was exhausting me. It was making me feel overwhelmed because I was having to do it on my nights and weekends. And I wasn't a present partner or parent. And I felt like I was just always busy. Again, not actually growing. And so the cost of doing all of this was I had no time or energy left for things that actually could move the needle forward. And then the other thing that I totally forgot about that I also delegated going into the new year is some of my content creation. I had so many limiting beliefs around this, you guys. I thoroughly enjoy creating content. I love opening Canva. It gives me a chance to like tap into my feminine energy, that creative flow. I love it. It's so fun to me. And even though it's fun and even though I love it, it's not moving the needle forward. So I decided going into 2026, I'm going to delegate 50% of my content creation. Luckily for me, my VA also does social media management. And so I hired her as like my part-time social media manager. And again, best move I ever made. I will say, a lot of times I'll just like give her themes and captions that I want her to incorporate. Otherwise, I just tell her to like run with a post and surprise me. And it is so fun to see what she creates. It's so fun. I love it. It gives me an instant dopamine hit. I try to stop myself from going onto Canva prior to a post going live because I love the element of surprise and seeing what's going to pop up that day when I open up Instagram. But every time I see her post, I am lit up inside and I'm like, oh my gosh, you do such a great job. This is so fun. So it added that element of surprise that I just love. And deciding to delegate my graphics and content creation was another really great decision. Because, like I said, when I was doing all of these things, it all was just busy work, but it wasn't growing me. And I didn't have the time or energy left for other things that mattered or actually moving the needle forward. And those things that also matter that do move the needle forward, like my coaching calls, my therapy sessions, building strategy, connecting with my audience, those are things that I'm now intentionally pouring into more. And I've got to tell you, it feels so freaking good. I love it. My visibility has increased online. If you are following me online, you've probably noticed that I'm showing up way more in my stories. I'm doing more lives, or trying to do more lives, I should say. It's a muscle that I'm trying to flex more and more. But all of that feels really freaking good. So, just to recap, what I first delegated was bookkeeping. I delegated that back in month 1 of 2023 when I first started my private practice. That's a non negotiable for me. I then, after delegating that, I hired a VA in 2024, at the end of 2024. Best move I ever made. She is soul aligned. She's local to my area. Just the best addition to my business and to my team. And then it was the end of 2025 that I found Sonia and hired Sonia going into 2026 as my podcast manager. And then I also added more onto my VA, hired her as my part-time social media manager to do 50% of my content creation. All of these things being taken off my plate has been a godsend, you guys. Did guilt come up initially? Yes. Was there fear of losing control? Yes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you guys, we don't even have control. That's such a like mind fuck. We don't have control. We think we do. We like to think that we do, but we don't. Okay. That's just the cold hard truth. And we do a lot of things to make us feel like we have control. But again, we don't. Other things I had to deal with or let go of. I had to let go of that belief that nobody can do it as well as I can. That is such a limiting belief, you guys. To believe that nobody can create content as well as I can is such BS because Christy, my social media manager, does so much better than I did. And I'm being honest, okay? Like, she's amazing. I still do my own reels, but she does like a majority of my carousels. And she is amazing. Love her. So I had to really face those limiting beliefs and I had to let go of those worries. And then the final thing I really had resistance with that I also had to come face to face with and I had to let go of was the worry about the cost. It was, I'm throwing money at something when I'm not bringing in that money yet. Yes, but it is going to lead to, I can then focus more on those money making tasks, ultimately, is what it comes down to. And I am, you guys, I am. It feels so freaking good. So, the lesson here that I really want you to walk away with is delegating for me, this is just my experience, was not a luxury. It was a necessity. If I want to 10x my growth, delegation has to be a part of the equation. And the ROI was not just financial, it was energetic, it was mental and emotional. I gained clarity back. I gained control back in other ways. Also, the financial side of things, because I'm able to do more therapy and more coaching as a result of taking these things off my plate. When I finally let go, I experienced so much relief, you guys, so much more time, so much more energy. And my results of the services that I was providing also improved, which is just wild to me that I wish I would have known this early on, but you don't know what you don't know. I feel like I'm saying that a lot lately, but it's just so true. And what I learned about my unique ability, like that skill that I have that I can provide only the way that I do, when I stopped doing those tasks that that didn't fall under the umbrella of like my unique ability, what became crystal clear to me is I can provide transformation to my coaching clients that is unlike anything else that I do. My unique ability as a coach and as a therapist became so much more evident. So, whatever your unique ability is, whether it's coaching, content creation, holding space for others, strategy building, vision casting, connecting with your audience, community building, whatever it is, okay, whatever your unique ability is, don't you want to be able to hone in on that more? I mean, you should want to. That's why you created your business, right? Like, I wanted to be able to do more therapy. I wanted to be able to do more coaching. And at the end of the day, what I realized was when you're spending your time on that unique ability, whatever that is for you, you're in flow. And when you're in flow, you're high vibing, your energy is higher, you're creating value. That's where the money is. That's where the growth happens. That's where the impact happens. That's where the magic lies, ultimately. So, again, the tasks I was holding on to were not making me money. They were costing me, and not just in money. They were costing me my energy. They were costing me my presence because every hour I spent on admin duties was an hour I was not spending in the therapy office, was an hour I wasn't spending on the work that actually grows my business and moves the needle forward. So, what I want to say along these lines also is that delegation isn't like a one-time thing, okay? This is an ongoing process. That's what I'm also realizing is, okay, I delegated first to an accountant and then a VA. And I thought like, oh, okay, so I'm good. But then I realized like, oh my gosh, no, I also need to remove this from my plate. So I delegated podcast stuff. And then it wasn't long after making that decision that I realized like, okay, yes, you love content creation, Stephanie, but it's not moving the needle for you. But if there's parts of it that you love, can you keep some of it and delegate some of it? So I did the 50% thing with my social media manager slash VA. And if I'm being honest with you, the next thing that I will probably delegate is hiring someone to help me create a course because it's something that has been on my heart for a while now. And I know you'll hear from like business coaches that like courses are out, but I still feel called to do it. And I would love for that to be something that's available on my website for people who aren't ready to invest in my coaching offer. So this is an ongoing process. There's probably always going to be something you could delegate. And as you grow your business more and more, new tasks are going to pop up that will need to be delegated. You'll literally keep asking yourself, is this still mine to do? Or is this taking me away from my 10x vision? The answer to that is so important. You need to pay attention to that. And what I also learned and what you would need to implement that I've started implementing is regular audits of your time and energy. Because what is on your plate that doesn't need to be? That's what you have to answer. There's going to always be something on your plate that maybe doesn't need to be on your plate. And so, like, what I envision for me in my business is that as it continues to scale and grow, my team will just continue to grow with it. And I don't know about you, but I love the idea of growing my business and my team. And ultimately, I'm here to build a legacy, you guys, and I need a tribe behind me supporting that. And that lights me up inside thinking about that. So, regular time audits, regular energy audits is a must. The final thing that I want to share with you guys is the lessons that I gained from delegating. This is literally going to be the key takeaways that I want you to walk away from today's podcast episode with. So, lesson one, you cannot scale by yourself. You just can't. I know you probably want to believe that you can, but you can't. There are only so many hours in a day. There are only so many days in a week. And if you're doing everything, you are the bottleneck. That was really a hard pill for me to swallow, but it's true. I was bottlenecking myself. Delegation is literally how I have multiplied myself. I'm no longer limited by my capacity. The other lesson is letting go is actually an act of trust. You have to trust somebody else to handle tasks that you've been doing, and that's really hard to do. But when you find individuals who are soul aligned for you and your business and your brand, then the trust muscle grows. And then the result of adding people to your team is you're also going to grow as a leader and as a business owner through that process. You have to learn to trust that other people can do it. Maybe not to the exact specifications of how you do it, but they can do it and they can do it pretty damn well. And what I have realized is oftentimes they actually do it better than me because it's their zone of genius. You want to talk about having a slice of humble pie? Yeah, I had to eat that slice of humble pie because I have realized that my VA actually does it better than I do it. My social media manager actually does it better than I do it because it's her zone of genius, you guys. My podcast manager does it better than I did because it's her zone of genius. So that right there was like another light bulb moment for me. A third lesson I want to share with you is your time is your most valuable asset. That should be a no-brainer, right? Money is renewable, but time is not. You can't get it back once it's spent. So if there are tasks that are costing you more in time and energy than it would to pay someone else to do it, freaking delegate it, you guys. That to me, now in hindsight, that is such a no-brainer. And you need to ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? And be honest with yourself. Even if you enjoy doing it, is it the best use of your time? Or is there someone who could do this better than me while I focus on what only I can do? Like, only I can practice therapy the way that I do. I can't delegate that, and I don't want to. Can I add other therapists to my team that want to specialize in whatever they want to specialize in? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah, that would be great. In fact, if you're listening to this and you are licensed in the state of Iowa, I would love to add another therapist to my team. So feel free to DM me or email me. I'm serious about that. I would love, 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 love to add another therapist to my team and grow my practice in that way as well. That's part of my 10x growth plan, actually. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, you need to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself those hard questions. If there's somebody who can do this better than me, while you can focus on what only you can do, freaking delegate it. Problem solved. Get that time back because that's your most valuable asset. A fourth lesson was delegation creates space for your next level self. Oh, I love saying that. You can't step into this next vision if you are still operating at your current level. You just can't. Okay. When you learn to let go of tasks and create space, what that gives you is space for strategy, creativity, space for rest, which we all need to learn to hone in on more, and that high value work that will actually take you to the next level. So when we let go, that's what you're all gaining in return. 100% worth it. Another lesson was it's not about doing more. It's actually about doing less of the right things. Hear me out on this. The goal is not to add more to your plate, despite what you might think. The goal is to remove what's not serving you so you can focus on what is serving you. So what serves me is my therapy sessions, getting certified in hypnotherapy. I'm so excited to start offering that as of April 1st of 2026. What serves me is coaching. That is another zone of genius for me. And I have just grown to love that equally as much as I love therapy. So if I can take those things off my plate that aren't serving me, then I can focus more on coaching and therapy, which is serving me. And you guys, hustle and overwhelm, that is not what leads to exponential 10x growth. That will only give you 2x growth. If you're really wanting that 10x growth, you need simplicity, focus, and alignment. Those three things: simplicity, focus, and alignment. So it's not about doing more. It's actually about doing less. And then the final lesson that I learned from delegating is that your business grows when you grow. I mean, you've probably heard the quote about like entrepreneurship is the best form of personal and professional development. It is so freaking true. I have grown so much since starting my businesses, so freaking much. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, not even a little bit. It's so wild how much I've grown. And what I want to say to this is, as you let go of tasks and you give yourself permission to step into your unique ability, you literally start showing up as a different version of yourself. It's like a quantum leap, you guys. I know because I've experienced it twice now. It's freaking powerful, but you become a different business owner entirely. And it's a beautiful process and it's a beautiful journey. You start to think bigger, therefore you show up differently. And when you show up differently because you're thinking bigger, you are attracting bigger and better opportunities. It's this whole cyclical experience. It's freaking awesome. It like the thought of it just like lights me up inside. And truth bomb here, your business will only grow as much as you are willing to grow. That might be hard for you to hear, but it's true. Your business will only grow as much as you are willing to grow. And sometimes growth means you have to let go of control. Again, we don't even have control. We just think we do. It's like a mirage, but we don't have it. Okay. We just like to think that we have it. So if you're being honest with yourself, if there is a lot of room for growth, then your business is going to grow right alongside you. And it's a beautiful process. It's a beautiful journey. So if you are intrigued by this and you're like, okay, I want to start delegating, even if you're scared, but you're like, yes, I want this, but yes, I'm scared. I get it. That was me a year ago and also 2 years ago. Let me give you some guidance on this. Okay. If you are ready to delegate, but you don't even know where to start, step one, audit your time. For 1 week, what I want you to do is just track everything you do. Like have a notebook and break it down by the hour. At the end of the day, I want you to track every task, every hour that you did. And I did this, you guys. It's so powerful. Such a great practice. And then at the end of the week, go through that and categorize all the tasks that you did into which ones are high value tasks, like which ones actually make you money, which ones light you up inside, and then which ones are low value tasks, as in like they don't make you money, and they drain you. So for me, just to give you an example, my high value tasks were coaching, strategy, content creation, client connection, building community. Love doing those things. My low value tasks were admin duties, scheduling, editing the podcast, tech issues, troubleshooting, that kind of stuff. So I delegated all of that. So do a time audit. Step 2, after you do a time audit, I want you to identify what you need to delegate first. So what this looks like is you're going to start with those tasks that take up the most time for you right now. You're going to start with those tasks that drain your energy the most right now. And you're going to focus on those tasks that are not your zone of genius. Like for me, it was admin duties, and it was, once I was honest with myself, some content creation. So which of those drain you? Which ones take up the most time? And which ones are not your zone of genius? And then the last is which ones could easily be done by somebody else? Easily being the key word there. So again, some examples are podcast editing, social media scheduling and creation, bookkeeping, email management, appointment setting, graphic design, just to name a few. There's so much more than just that though. Once you did a time audit and then identified what needs to be delegated first, then go into step 3 and focus on finding the right person or creating a system for that. Okay. It's not necessary that you have to hire somebody. There could be a way to like set up automation and have it be done automatically for you too. For me, I focus on hiring a VA. So you could hire a VA or a specialist, or again, use automation tools. My advice to you is don't try to find somebody who can do all of it. I think that is so unrealistic. Find people that really hone in on their skills and really niche down like you do, hopefully. Find somebody who's great at the one thing you need them to do. And what I recommend for finding this person, ask around, ask for referrals, join like minded communities, ask those individuals, whether it be like podcasting groups or business coaching groups or networking groups. Use platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, or if there's like any specialized agencies. For me, I asked around and then I interviewed multiple VAs before I hired. I interviewed multiple podcast managers before I hired. I interviewed multiple social media managers before I landed on my VA. So don't be impulsive with this. For me, what's really important to me is like they need to feel soul aligned. So be very intentional about who you hire. Do not be reactive and impulsive or it won't be a good move. And then the 4th step after finding the right person or creating a system for automation is letting go of perfectionism. Ooh, this was hard for me if I'm being honest. Yes, they might not do it exactly the way you would, but it's okay because you're going to realize they can probably do it better. If this is something you struggle with, give them clear instructions. Write out an SOP for literally everything you want them to do. Give them feedback along the way. I give my VA feedback all the time. Truth be told, it's all good feedback. She's freaking amazing. But give that feedback. Most people are open to feedback. And then just trust the process. Let go and trust. Surrender. And remember, done is better than perfect. And also, our followers aren't looking for perfection. They're not. Trust me, they're not. And remember that this person that you hired, their 80% is still better than your 0%. Because if you are too burned out to do it, it's not going to be great. After you work on letting go of perfectionism, step 5 is reinvest your time back into those high value work tasks. So don't just delegate just to fill the time with more tasks and more busy work. That's not the point here. You're delegating so you can focus more on those high value tasks. Use that freed up time to focus on your unique ability, which is the work that only you can do. And it's the work that actually moves the needle forward for you. Okay, so reinvest that time wisely. The final step to delegation is track the ROI. I'm going to be honest, I don't have like a special way that I do this, but ultimately what I feel it looks like is just notice what happens when you delegate. Do you feel you have more energy? Do you notice you have more time? Do you notice you have more money coming in, more clarity? For me, the clarity piece was huge. I noticed I was getting a lot more downloads. I was feeling more aligned when doing like my high value tasks. So just like take note of these things. For me, I just kind of do this mentally. I don't have like a formal system, but just notice what happens personally for you and also like within the business. And then celebrate the wins. That's huge. You have to celebrate the wins along the way, even the small ones. Okay. I'm not just talking big wins, celebrate all of them. Me and two of my closest friends, what we recently started doing was at the end of every day. So we have a thread between the three of us that we send messages back and forth throughout the week. And at the end of every day, we don't have a name for it, but it's like, excuse me, it's like an abundance check-in. So we share signs with each other of abundance that we experience throughout our days. And it's so fun. And the more we're looking for signs of abundance, the whole point is we're probably going to see more abundance showing up in our lives. So celebrate the wins, because the more you celebrate them, the more you're going to see. Literally every task that you let go of is a step toward your 10x vision, and you deserve to celebrate that. You should be celebrating that. So just to give you an idea of what this looks like in real life, before I delegated, I was overwhelmed. I was exhausted. I was doing everything myself. I was constantly busy, but I wasn't actually growing. And then after I finally delegated some things, what I experienced was more spaciousness. I had more energy. I was more focused on those high value tasks. And my business is growing exponentially. It's growing in revenue, it's growing in impact, and I have gotten more freedom. That is huge. I cannot express that enough. It's huge. And then in real life, I also had an identity shift. I was no longer a doer of all things. I was no longer a solopreneur. Okay. I was a leader. I was a CEO. I was a strategist, and I was a visionary. And I stepped into those roles and owned those roles. And that's what you will do too. You will step into the role that your business actually needs you to play. And it feels so freaking good when you do that. And it's all coming from a state of flow, which is amazing. When you really take a step back and you look at the bigger picture, in other words, the 10x thinking, ultimately, this isn't just about your business. Okay. When you adopt 10x thinking, it is a mindset shift that literally carries over into every area of your life, into everything that you do, you guys. It carries over into your relationships. So you literally stop trying to be everything to everyone, and you focus more on the relationships that actually light you up inside. And then you learn to let go of the ones that drain you and just aren't really doing it for you. It pours over into personal growth. You stop trying to fix every flaw, and you just learn to focus on your strengths instead and just let go of the rest. And that feels like freedom. It pours over into your calendar. You stop saying yes to everything and you actually implement healthy boundaries for yourself, which feels like freedom. Holy shit, that feels like freedom. I cannot express that enough. That could literally be a whole podcast episode itself, which maybe I will do that. But you learn to protect your time and what actually matters to you. And then you don't feel guilty for saying no to things. I mean, I stopped feeling guilty a while ago, but like, I just know what I want to make time for and what I don't. So sue me. What I had to ask myself was, what would your life look like if you let go of the 80% that's keeping you stuck and focused on the 20% that's actually moving you toward your 10x vision? And you should ask yourself this. You should sit down and journal to this. What would your life look like if you let go of the 80% that's keeping you stuck and instead focused on the 20% that's actually moving you toward your 10x vision? What would your life look like? I invite you to journal to that. I gave myself that invitation. It was the best thing I did for myself. And then I visualized that every night before I go to bed. All right, you guys. Ultimately, what I want you to remember is growth requires letting go. You can't step into your next level version of yourself if you are still clinging to those tasks and those identities and ways of operating that belong to your old level. You just can't. You aren't meant to do it all. You aren't. You are meant to do your part, your unique zone of genius, the part that literally only you can do. And when you learn to honor that, everything else falls into place, and it is a beautiful process. So my challenge for you is This week, do a time audit, start today or tomorrow. Identify one task, just one, that you can delegate or automate or eliminate. Delegate, automate, or eliminate. And then take that first step toward your 10x vision. It's going to feel fucking great when you do. I promise you that. I would love to hear from you. If any of this resonated with you, please DM me and tell me what resonated. Tell me what that one task is that you're ready to let go of. And if you want referrals, I'm happy to send them your way. I have a whole slew of them in my back pocket, I feel. So feel free to DM me. And if you know a business owner who's doing everything and they're burnt out, send them my way. I'd love to coach them and maybe just send this podcast episode to them even. And if you want support building a business that feels soul aligned and sustainable without the burnout, I'm your girl. I would love to coach you through that. Hit up my website. It's in the show notes. I would love to work with you. Set up a clarity call with me. And if you're not subscribed to my weekly newsletter, that is also in the show notes. Feel free to subscribe. All right, you guys, it was so fun hopping on talking to you guys today. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys all next week.